Today, we are discussing yoga for IVF, safety, success rates, and key benefits for the body and mind. We are delighted to be joined by Katie Brown, who is a senior yoga instructor, author, and relaxation expert, as well as being joined by Dr. Gavin Sacks, who is a fertility specialist and obstetrician. Welcome to you both.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. Thanks, lovely to be here.
And lovely to see you both across the globe in Australia. So thank you for chatting with us today. We are going to be talking, as I mentioned, about yoga for IVF. We have lots of questions from our readers about the benefits of this. So it's lovely to have a holistic view over it. This video has been sponsored and made possible by the experts at Thrive, who are an online fertility wellness program that seamlessly bring together yoga, Ayurvedic, nutrition, and relaxation techniques, together with clinically tested approach to preconception planning. So let's start with an introduction to yoga for IVF, something that I was very interested in when I was having many rounds of IVF over the past 8 years of my conception journey. So I'd love to ask you both, could you tell us a bit about yourselves and also how and why you specialize in what you do? Starting with you, Katie.
Right, yes. Well, my name is Katie Brown. I've been teaching yoga now for 24 years. I have 3 children who are a fair bit older now. And I've got a background as a journalist, actually, and I found yoga because it was quite a high pressure job and I just loved yoga. And now I teach full time, and I'm also an author, so I've combined my writing and my yoga. So I specialize in writing relaxation-based books, visualizations, that kind of thing. Yeah, I love all aspects of yoga. I think it's something that you just continue to learn. The more you know, the more you realize you need to know. And also just bringing it into your life, not just in, when you're trying for a baby, in pregnancy, as a new mum, when your children get older. It's a practice that you can lean into for the whole of your life. And it's amazing that there are so many tools there that you can use to help you with life's journey. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Dr. Gavin Sacks, how about you?
Hello there. So I'm the clinical director of IVF Australia, which is one of the biggest IVF companies in Australia and the world. But I trained in England, and we moved over to Sydney, Australia in 2005, largely for a better lifestyle. And we wanted to bring our 3 kids up in this environment, outdoors primarily and by the beach. But my real passion, apart from that kind of thing, is IVF and conception, having children and what all that means. I've always had a really deep passion for reproduction and why it's so important and how it's so important, but how it impacts on different people in so many different ways. Some people don't want to have children at all, and some people sacrifice almost everything in their life to have children. And I find that spectrum quite fascinating. I really believe in trying to individualize how people approach things. And I really, try and use my science background to help them achieve their goals. Their goals are not necessarily so simple, but sometimes it is just trying in a certain way or feeling that they've been on a journey. And obviously, it's easy to say an end goal is a baby, but it isn't always. So I find the whole subject really fascinating in all kinds of ways. I do a lot of science research, and I did a PhD in Oxford when I was in England. And I'm still doing a lot of research, but it really is about people and kind of being involved in their personal journeys, which fascinates me about this whole thing.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. So, Katie, I'd like to ask you about yoga for IVF. Could you tell us a little bit about what yoga is for IVF, why you would recommend starting it, and also are there particular poses or practices that you would recommend to support with fertility treatment?
Yes. Okay. I'll break that down a little. Yoga for IVF is it's looking at specific practices, cherry picking the practices from yoga that are going to help support a woman during this quite time, which is quite a roller coaster, and there's a lot of pressures on top of life's normal pressures to have to deal with. It's essentially kind of really focusing on deep relaxation techniques and helping to really balance the hormonal system as well, which gives women the greatest chance of being able to conceive and having a healthy pregnancy and then flowing into becoming a new mum. So all the practices that you do with your yoga for IVF are going to be lifelong practices that will hold you in great stead for the rest of your life and as a new parent. Because this is a time when you really do need to nurture and nourish yourself, you're really focusing on poses that are very restorative, and the more tranquilizing or soothing pranayama or breathing practices that you can do and guided relaxations. So you'd definitely be steering away from going to like a general yoga class at this point in time, and doing more of these restorative type practices. So the kind of poses and or shapes that you'd be doing, very gentle, very nourishing. Things like a very classic yoga pose is cat Marjariasan, where you're on all fours and you're just moving with your breath. So yoga is all about connecting to your breath and to your body. So it helps you come into your body, which is quite often, especially when we're very busy, we're very much in our heads and we've got this disconnect that's happening. With our yoga practice at this stage, we are particularly concerned with connecting with your body, connecting them with your baby, and that was going to help amazingly in birth and beyond. But yeah, it's all about kind of coming into those restorative poses that help to ease tension, muscular tension, and also help you, as I mentioned, connect with the breath. And by connecting with the breath, there's lots of different breathing practices that we do that help you to come into the parasympathetic nervous system, which initiates the relaxation response. And when we're in a relaxed state like that, our hormones are balanced, and yeah, we're just kind of feeling in a better headspace. Our body feels better. We're getting more oxygen-rich blood to all the organs. And the other poses that we tend to focus on are poses which help to encourage blood flow to the internal reproductive organs and to the pelvic area. So they could be things like, just in yoga, we say Viparita Karani, which is a very fancy name for legs up the wall. And it's just as simple as just lying on your back with your legs resting against the wall, your arms out to the side, and just connecting with your breath and having that time just to be still. Yeah, so I could be talking for hours on this because there's just so many benefits, and yeah, but that's essentially what we're aiming for.
And if someone is considering taking up yoga for the first time to support an IVF cycle, for example, would you suggest jumping straight into this part or gradually easing in? And when would be a good time to start?
I think that's the beauty of the Thrive program. I put this together with the Thrive team, and at the moment we've got this 15-week program that you can hook into in week 1. So it supports you through every single stage of your IVF journey and your pregnancy. And so the restorative yoga poses. So for the first 15 weeks, we've just got different relaxations each week that support you particularly at that time. And also we've got a restorative yoga position with a particular soothing breathing practice. So there are 15 different breathing practices that are all really designed to help you feel very relaxed. And there'll be some that you'll just love and you'll just lean into the whole time. And all the different relaxations are varying lengths so that you can just let them come into your lifestyle and your schedule, so it's not too onerous.
Fantastic. And for anyone who would like to find out more about the Thrive program, it is linked up in the description and in our bio here, so please do check it out. And for Gavin, please could you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you commonly see as a fertility specialist when people are having troubles and need IVF, And why might you recommend yoga as a holistic practice to support their treatment?
So IVF is a really strange thing to tell people to do because the success rate is quite low. I mean, these are well people and they go into quite a grueling treatment of injections and blood tests and some surgery. And the success rate might be on average, say, 1 in 3, sometimes even lower if a woman's older. So the majority of people going to IVF fail per cycle. And I think that's quite a tough thing to understand. Most of us wouldn't accept that we're going to be the ones who fail. So we all kind of buy a lottery ticket, for example, expecting we'll be the 1 in 10 million. But in IVF, we similarly go in thinking, well, that will be my success. But actually, most people fail statistically, more than 2/3 per cycle. So it's a weird thing to tell people to do, quite tough. There's money involved, sometimes quite a lot of money, thousands of dollars. And also people come into IVF having come from a long background of failure. They could have been trying for 2 years. They could have been doing all kinds of their own stuff or trying in different ways. And each month of trying naturally, really stressful. So there's a huge weight of whatever's happened in the past that comes into IVF. So there's a lot of expectation that this will be the thing. Some people think it's their last chance or the final thing, and this will sort it out. And there's an underlying biological race going on. Women will be very aware that there's a very finite time when they can achieve children. And, in your late 30s, for example, that time is really limited. So there are underlying a lot of stresses. A lot of our patients have family pressures from parents and even friends. People will be observing their friends having children. A lot of stress comes into this little point of the IVF cycle. And the problem is IVF by its nature, you can't guarantee an outcome, but also it's there's a real emotional roller coaster through the treatment. So you can be good one day and then 2 days later, not so good. And you change this and then it's good and then it's bad. You expect so many eggs and you only get so many. It's a real up and down thing. It's really, really tough emotionally. Women are often doing this on their own. They often don't share all this trauma and stress with friends or family. So it's often really hard for them to get through all this. And at the same time, they have to do what they have to do. They have to basically do the injection at the right time. They have to do what their doctor says, what the nurses tell them to do. And it's not so simple sometimes. There may be multiple injections and different ways they have to make up drugs and different times they have to do things. It is complicated. And all this fits into their life of running around being a hairdresser or a banker or whatever they're doing. Like, life's busy for all of us these days. So basically, it's a really tough thing that all comes to a head in these usually around 2 weeks of an IVF cycle. And so we use the word stress very liberally, and it's like easy to say it's stressful, but I was just trying to say just what that really means. It's stressful because of all these factors that come into it. And so helping people through this is really critical for the outcome. So I'm hoping to get that 1 in 3 success or whatever, and I need the people, the patients, to do what they have to do. That's really important. And I need them to be engaged with our team, to do what they have to do, to turn up when they have to turn up, and to be in as kind of normal, relaxed state as possible, because most of us work better when we're relaxed. Mm-hmm. So again, I don't like the word relaxed because it's also very general. What does that mean? I kind of want people to just be who they are, and I'd like IVF to be happening kind of just on the side and for them to be living their full life as they are. And that's what I call relaxed. So, the pressure is to try and make this happen. That's my goal and the goal of my team. And every individual, as we know, is different and everyone needs a different approach. So I would say yoga is one of the ways that this might help some of our patients.
Okay, so key benefits and success, which everybody, of course, wants to focus on and know about when pursuing any sort of treatment and also holistic support too. So, Katie, please could you tell us a little bit more about the success and how yoga for IVF can help with stress levels, which, as Dr. Gavin has just mentioned, is something that people want to try and avoid when having treatment. But as you said, saying reduce stress can make you more stressed. So, please tell us more about these benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we are stressed, we do tend to kind of have more cortisol running around and adrenaline, and this obviously affects our energy levels and our vagus nerve and just how we function. It affects every system of the body. It also can interfere with things like progesterone, which is really important to help with fertility and help to actually for the IVF process and to have a successful pregnancy. So yeah, yoga's targeting elements of kind of coming into that parasympathetic nervous system. And it doesn't have to be too complicated, just things like focusing on the exhalation, because the inhale is energizing, the exhalation is generally very relaxing and releasing. So there are some simple key things that people can do at this time just to really come into that relax. I mean, I guess I'm using the word relax because that's what we all understand, but that relaxed state. And in that relaxed state, we feel more grounded, we feel more centered. Our body is in that parasympathetic activation state, which is very healing. That's the state that we talk about with rest and digest, but also nest, because it does help bring more blood flow to the reproductive organs, to the internal organs, to the digestive system, you know, all the kind of internal systems of the body. So it's going to help us be in the optimal state for becoming pregnant and for maintaining that pregnancy as well.
Great, thank you. And what about you, Gavin? What would your view be on the supporting success?
So I'd really like to just go back to what Katie said earlier, which I thought really resonated with me, that a lot of our patients, in fact, all of them, are completely obsessed in their own heads. They get really just fixated. It's like quite fascinating to observe. And I don't think that's good. It's not good for their general health and not good for the IVF process to work best, and not good for their decision making. And and I feel that trying to get them out of their heads, Katie, I really think was a fantastic way of putting it. And I really like the idea that, yeah, you've got to be a bit more into your body and holistic, and the ways you beautifully described it. I see that as a huge gain. I try in my way, in my consultations, to counsel them out of obsession with how many eggs we got and what dose, and they get very particular on things, which is not actually helpful for them. They've got to get through this whole process. And so I think yoga would be a fantastic way to try and get them to do that. I think the idea of the physiology that Katie described definitely would have potential benefits. I mean, it's hard to know in scientific terms whether that actually produces what it is meant to produce, but it might do. We all know that people who are in a good state, a good state means they're just like top of their game in how they are, is how I would personally think of it. They will do better. They will not just make better decisions, but they'll perform better physically, and probably their physiology and the things that are needed to help a pregnancy will be better. So I definitely would advocate that too. I think the obsession with IVF, which most patients who do IVF tend to do, we need to get them out of that. And sometimes introducing a new thing, a new pursuit, which yoga might be for some of these patients, is a fantastic idea. Like, I mean, it can't be for everyone. Not everyone will want to do yoga, but it's clearly this whole world which you can go into. And I've done it a bit myself, and it's like a fascinating distraction, or rather interest in life, that just kind of takes you somewhere else. And I think that's a really helpful thing for most of us. You know, a lot of people think, I can't do this or that because I don't have time. I can't take up yoga, or I can't learn the guitar, or I can't because I don't have time. And I think we all actually have time for things that are important. And I think yoga could be one of these things where we think there's no time. We think it's just all got to be this, this, and this. But if you get into this world of what yoga can be, patients just have this extra time in their lives where, I mean, I love the way Katie was describing as well, how you lie with your legs up on the wall, and I could imagine doing that myself right now. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? And I think sometimes we all just need permission to do that. And I think if yoga does nothing else, just saying, right, now you're going to sit on the ground with your legs up against the wall for 20 minutes. And I think there'd be enormous gain for all of us if we did that. But we need often kind of permission to do that. And I feel yoga would gain in that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just going to add that it's an investment. It really is, you know, and for me, when I became a new mum, I certainly found my sleep was affected bad, you know, I was exhausted. And I used to have between 2 and 3 would be like my yoga nidra time, and I do a relaxation. And I now do that throughout my whole life now. And when I do that, even if it's just 10 minutes, I feel so energized. It makes me feel like I've had about 2 hours sleep, and it certainly helps me now. I'm now post-menopause. You know, it's these things are things that you can sprinkle into the rest of your life. They are real life skills. And also you're being a role model for your children when you have them as well. And the other thing I was just going to mention, actually, Gavin, because you mentioned this too, was that feeling of control. And I think for me personally, as a new mum, it was really difficult to relinquish that feeling of being in control. And we know that this whole journey is about letting go of that control. You just have to go with the flow. And that is what our yoga practice really supports us with, so that we can feel centered and grounded and just move with, you know, whatever life throws at us from a perspective of feeling strong. I mean, yoga, we talk about stiram and sukham, and it's softness and strength. So this strength, this is resolve, where you feel strong, you can deal with whatever life throws at you, but you've also got this softness and this lightness about you. So there's just so many things that you can weave into your life. Yes.
You know, I really love what you just said there, in fact. So I've spent today consulting with a lot of people who have a real control problem. So they come into IVF just as and reproduction generally, from our general lives and our high jobs or whatever people are doing, thinking they can control everything. And reproduction, by its very nature, is a creative thing. Every baby is completely unique, and therefore is a new experiment in the history of the world. It's creative. It's not something you just manufacture. And I think there is this massive underlying randomness behind it all, which I'm afraid is the beauty of it. But it does mean that you can't really control it in the way that we control other things. And our patients have a real problem relinquishing that, which they have no choice. But it makes a lot of friction in IVF when they think they can cover every aspect and it'll work, and it doesn't work. And that can be really stressful. So I really love the way you said that, Katie, because I try and find ways to help them understand. In fact, I use those exact words you used now with patients today about going with the flow. There is a real importance in doing a good cycle of kind of going with the flow and just moving with how it is rather than being rigid. I wanted it like this, like, for example, I want 8 eggs, you know, and like that's creates such rigidity and such cause for stress. Whereas it's better to go into an IVF cycle. I want a baby at the end, really. I'd love a baby, and however many eggs we get, we hope one will be the baby, would be a better approach, you know. So yeah, yoga could help that side of things. That'd be just incredible.
What about key milestones? So, for example, egg retrieval, transfer. How does yoga support these milestones in a fertility treatment cycle?
So, I mean, firstly, those are just like stressful moments. And if you've already got a kind of little plan going on in your life of putting your legs against the wall and doing the upside down dog, whatever pose, like if you just do things that you're used to doing and that's helping, that's great. So it's really good to have a thing that's underlying, causing you to be calm when you're approaching these things. But also, as I said, these are milestones where we really don't want there to be so much stress on specific things and going with the flow. So I think, as Katie so beautifully described, we want the whole body to change in a way that allows them to go with whatever happens rather than, a real forced expectation, which can be really stressful. The outcome may be altered too. One of the biggest determinants of IVF outcome is what happens in the embryo transfer. And it's a strange thing for us doctors because it's a strangely easy thing to do compared to many other surgical things we do. But every doctor has different success rates, and every cycle can be influenced by, there have been many studies looking at all kinds of weird things, such as mindfulness, having a comedian in a room, acupuncture, patients eating, McDonald's fries or a particular kind of, pineapple. There was all kinds of things which seemed to impact on in some way. And I think so there are things about that process which seem to do something. And I think the bottom line is it helps their body be in a good state somehow, right? And everyone's different in what they need for that. And I think yoga can definitely have a real positive and actual success rate benefit around that in that time, the embryo transfer.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
And what about safety? Any precautions that people should consider from a medical standpoint, or Katie, in terms of poses or anything to do with the treatment cycle?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we actually don't, I mean, in pregnancy itself, don't recommend doing, when I did my training anyway, I did it with the International Yoga Teachers Association 24 years ago now. And I've continued all my studies, and we come from a perspective where we don't actually recommend general yoga in that first 12 weeks, but also in the fertility realm, it's all about conserving energy. It's about stepping into your body, allowing yourself time, especially, if you're very busy, which you probably will be at that point in time with normal life stresses and things. So I would not be doing, strenuous poses, no breath retention. We've also, I guess you kind of almost want to feel as if you are pregnant, treat yourself as if you are pregnant at that point as well. So no strong stretches. Yeah, just being very kind and gentle to yourself, not coming into no high impact exercises or anything like that. So the yoga is more restorative, relaxations, and those soothing, tranquilizing breathing practices, and some mindfulness. And that's all part of yoga too. Meditation, visualizations, that kind of thing.
What about you, Dr. Sacks? What would your advice be?
Yeah, obviously, we don't want people to start doing something that could be, and they could injure themselves. It's really good if they're going to do it with yoga instructors who are good, know that they're pregnant or about to be pregnant, and so there's, as Katie says, that kind of sensitivity really important. So a general, yoga class may be inappropriate in some people. We definitely don't want them to get injured. I think that some people can overfill their lives with stuff. Everyone has a different way of living, and people have different things. Sometimes I've seen patients, many who just hear about, oh, I've heard this is good, I've heard this is good, I've heard this is good. And they fill their life up with everything that they have heard might make a difference. And this can lead to a list of 20 herbs and supplements and running off to see the acupuncturist and seeing her nutritionist or the naturopath, and you can add in so many things. Yoga can be just another thing, which can make life even more stressful. So I think it's a matter of choosing what's good for you. I mean, we should all be doing yoga ideally, I guess, but I guess sometimes there isn't time to get into it. So I think it's just appreciating what would be good for you. And it's not always yoga for everyone. And I think so we don't want people to overfill their lives with things.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that you don't have to think of yoga as like an hour-long class as well. Some of the practices that we've got in the Thrive program, a breathing practice will just be 5 minutes, or there'll be a 10-minute relaxation. So yeah, I think it's not just on the mat. You've got these tools that you can incorporate into your life. Even, for example, when you're waiting in line at the bank or something, you could be just doing some of the breathing practices, or just feeling grounded, feeling your feet connected to the earth. Again, helping you to come out of your head, and just noticing your posture, because that's another huge benefit from the yoga, is we really focus on our posture. And once we have good posture, we also help our breathing, and then that's going to help our respiratory system,
Yes.
our immune function, and it's got that flow on effect.
I really agree, and I think our patients should get initiated into this long before the start of the IVF cycle.
Yeah.
So, we should be thinking maybe all people who see a fertility specialist at that point where we're beginning to think of maybe will lead to IVF would be a good time, because I do think it's something you describe beautiful benefits in all kinds of ways that is hard to imagine in a very just one-off acute situation. So it needs a bit of learning and a bit of time, ideally. And so, yeah, I'd really advocate that to be early on. So, there should be ways how are we going to get better support and better living frameworks in this person's life before the actual IVF. And yoga would be a huge part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Katie, could you tell us a little bit more about the Thrive program? You mentioned that it's nearly 4 months long, which is an incredible opportunity to support people if there are multiple cycles, for example, and preparation. Tell us a little bit more about the program and the other holistic approaches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got all specialists, fertility specialists, and it's kind of holding your hand through the whole journey, and it's going to be going beyond that 4 months as well. And so for the yoga that I put together, I've got 3 children. I've been teaching prenatal for years, and I've actually got qualification. I'm a qualified massage instructor and a counselor, and a few other things that I've kind of sprinkled in there. And so I've kind of used all of those things really to kind of create a supportive program that is, as I mentioned earlier, designed specifically for each stage of the journey. So there'll be things like a restorative, like a reclining butterfly. You'll be doing something like golden ribbon breath, where you breathe in through the nose and then lightly part the lips and allow the breath to release out through the mouth, perhaps imagining that breath like a golden ribbon of light just unraveling into the distance. And that's helping you to focus on the exhale. And then you can just draw the breath back in through the nose and then repeat the process. And each time you're just feeling yourself sinking into the props, because restorative yoga uses props. It doesn't have to be expensive things. It can just be cushions and pillows and blankets and things like that. But you'll feel like you're supported by the earth. So you've got that feeling of being supported to let go into that support as well. And again, I think that really helps when you're on the roller coaster journey of IVF, that you feel a little, you want to be in control, but you're out of control, and you kind of got all these things happening. But just to feel like you can just have a big sigh and know that you're supported by Mother Earth, let go into that support, and then using all the different breathing practices that we've integrated into the different shapes. And then from there, the idea is that you can either just do that if you've only got 5 or 10 minutes, or you can then do the relaxation for that particular week. You're already in a relaxed state, and yeah, and you may even fall asleep and stay in there for an hour, which would be amazing. But it's there, and there are different times for each of the relaxations. So you see how much time you've got, and you can just work it into your schedule.
And Dr. Gavin Sacks, what would your advice be when it comes to looking at more holistic approaches to support fertility treatment?
Everyone's different, and everyone needs different things to help them on their way in life. And I have to say, listening to Katie it's just so beautiful, everything you describe. And I mean, it makes me think everyone should do yoga all the time, obviously. It's a beautiful way of putting it all. I think there's no doubt that there are other ways of trying to achieve that sort of balance, and people do it in different ways. And I guess the main other alternative one I'm involved with a bit is acupuncture, which I'm interested in because we don't know exactly how it works, but it's clear that the needles do things to people. And I often see them, after they've just had a session, there's no doubt it has an impact. It's a little more passive than yoga, which, you go there and just lie there and have someone do something to you. And I find I really like the proactiveness of yoga. I really like the engagement and the way Katie described how you engage with your body, and that's a great thing. I think that great concept. But acupuncture would be another one. I think some people go quite a lot into naturopathic sort of supplement lifestyles, and that suits some people. For me, I feel it sort of gives them an illusion of control. If they take enough of these supplements, they'll cover all the things. And I feel that's I'm not sure how helpful that is in terms of what I'm trying to achieve with my treatment. And I really like yoga for everything we've discussed today. But I guess those are the main things. There are people who try other things. I had a patient today asking me about cupping as a way of trying to reduce stress, I presume. And people do massage. And, I think things like that, and even going to the gym could be thought of in a similar way. I mean, I think we all have to do what makes sense to us. I think it is quite personal, and I'd encourage people to think of what would be best for them personally, rather than just what they've heard of. I think there's always a danger when we just think, well, that person, I want to do what that person did. And it's actually better for us to really be really personal and what do we need. And so I'd encourage that rather than just seeking out what other people have done. Yoga is just a brilliant way of helping that decision, even because it makes us really consider ourselves.
Well, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you both today. Thank you very much for your insight and expertise. I'm sure everyone listening will be grateful. And as we said before, please do check out this amazing new Thrive Yoga for IVF program, which is linked up here in our bio and through the description. Their brand new Yoga IVF program is designed to guide you through the integration of yoga practices into your IVF journey, and this supports you and your cycle from week 1. So please do check it out via the link in the bio. And thank you both very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.